Before I begin, thank you, Randall Johnson, for that warm introduction. Di ko alam kung warm yun or nalaglag talaga ako or di ko alam kung may natutunan kayo or natuwa kayo doon or natawa kayo doon. But I do hope that in the next few minutes or in the hour of me speaking, this adds value to you, because that's the whole context of this, that there's really no hidden agenda. That's why we would do Icon. It's really just to add more value to people, that you get to decide properly, that you get to have enough information, that whatever spoken here, it helps you process the information and data as possible, because that's the most important in the world that we're living in right now. It's about sifting through the noise and taking out what's valuable, that will allow you to decide on how you will go in your investments. And Randall talked about so many speakers yesterday. I honor all of them. I think they all have gifts that they could give. They have specialties that mas alam nila kaysa sa alam ko, and we all add a supply and get whatever you can from each of the speakers, and then apply it to your own. And pretty much also today, I'm sure you will get a lot today, because we bring a mix of different speakers also and different topics. So allow me to load this so that we can get started. But I hope you guys are ready. I hope you guys are excited. What I did, no, as I tried to structure at least the way I would do this talk, is it centralized on lahat ng pinagdaanan ko during the lockdown. Kasi comment below kung if you're a business person, you're a corporate person, and naramdaman nyo to, that when 2019 happened and you were crushing it, you were doing well, your business was pushing higher, your plans for 2020 were bigger, na parang you were always looking forward for growth, na kung kumita ka ng 10 million nung 2019, you're looking at, mag 12 million tayo this year, or kung kumita ka ng 500,000, you're looking at, sige, mag 800,000 tayo this year. You were planning also for the best. And true enough, even for me, from January to February 2020, lahat ng mga sinasabi ni Rex yesterday about firing on all cylinders, that was happening. As in, it was really, really well. Then March happened, and sa mga nag-crypto na maintindihan nyo to, parang feeling ko may rug pull. There was like a rug pull underneath me, na lahat ng plinano ko, lahat ng gusto kong gawin, it suddenly shifted, and it suddenly changed. And what I want to share, that's why it's entitled Conviction, Correction, and Cash Flow, is that in the midst of the correction, you need conviction, and you need to also figure out a way on how you can get cash flow off of it. Because you have to understand this, we always have to look at things long. When I say we have to look at things long, some of the things that I'm walking on today, May 2021, those are things na tinanim ko 2006, those are things na tinanim ko 2007, those are things na tinatanim ko 2010. And totoo, it's fascinating to trade. It's amazing to be able to move in and out of fluctuations or reversals. Pero there are also ways that some of you are business people, some of you are career professionals, that it's prudent for you to focus on what you're good at and build asset classes, not thinking about what you will earn in the next 2 minutes, not thinking about what you will earn in the next 8 minutes, but thinking about where it will be 10 years from now. And if you look at lahat ng mga speakers yesterday, we never, ever told them, ito yung didiscuss ng isang speaker, ito didiscuss mo, that was never in the topic. But if you look at it line upon line, pareho eh. It's always about allocation. It's always about volume. And before I continue, and I progress with what I want to share, I just wanna talk about a couple of things that when we look back at 2020, I think those are the underlying conditions. Meaning, the way I would, I guess, invest right now is mainly focused on these three things na nagpabago on how things have been, at least for me. So number one, and as I'm sure you all know this, biggest thing that has changed in the way we invested was because of the coronavirus. But not just that, because of the lockdowns. Please remember, it's not just the coronavirus kasi that's deadly. It's the lockdowns brought about by the coronavirus. And number three, in my opinion, it's also the fear of the coronavirus. What do I mean by that? The lockdowns in the Philippines happened March 12, March 15, 2020. But if you notice the narrative, February pa lang, mas konti na yung tao na pupunta sa malls. Mas nabawasan na yung nagda-dine-in sa restaurants. February pa lang, I was supposed to have, I had several flights for February. Some of them got canceled already because some of the places that I would have gone, medyo nag-spread na yung COVID doon. So, it's not just the virus itself, but it's the fear of the virus. And even up until now, we are in May 2021, when we locked down Manila nung March again this year, so for 2 months na, halos di rin ako lumalabas masyado eh. And I've seen it also, I've seen the virus hit home, that I've seen some friends and friends of friends na either munti ka na namatay or they really passed on already through this life. And I think above and beyond the lockdowns and the virus itself, it's the fear of the virus that has caused, at least from a Philippine economic standpoint, to hit our economy. Number 4 is this, and which is so relevant to how we invest, because yung style ko prior to this, if you would watch my old videos or if you attended the previous icons, I would always say that my style is, as long as the Filipino is spending, because we are a consumption-driven economy, we could be somehow immune to what's happening abroad. We could be somehow immune to what's happening, similar to what happened in 2008, similar to what happened in 2011, 13 in other shores. As long as OFW send money, as long as Filipinos spend it, the BPO industry is increasing, and then people in that industry continue to spend as well, the wheels will turn. However, nung March 2020, kahit gusto mong gumastos, hindi ka makagastos eh. Lahat ng mga trips na gusto mong gawin, hindi mo rin magagawa, hindi ka makakaalis. You can't do the things that you wanted. And there were a lot of people also, comment below if naramdaman nyo to, in the midst of the anxiety, in the midst of not knowing what was going on, in the midst of hindi mo alam kung may trabaho ka 6 months from now, hindi mo alam kung ano yung state ng negosyo mo 9 months from now, or hindi mo alam kung ano mangyayari sa revenue source mo in the next few weeks. Some of them na dapat bibili ng kotse, bibili ng bahay, or bibili ng ibang items, they tapered it off. And so even though there were some people that had the money to spend because they could not spend it, it hit consumer confidence. And in a way also, there were people that talagang natamaan yung income nila that they were not able to spend. And that's the narrative of what I'm seeing right now and what's shifting. And please do remember, the whole goal for us as investors is really, we need also to innovate and pivot through the times. And I'll show you this. When we hit ECQ last year, no market was spared. This is the Philippine Stock Exchange Index. Massive drop to around 4,000 intraday. Then it went up intraday to around 4,500 to settle around that area. And if you look at it also, pabalik ng highest natin ng 2018, we really have not gone back to that particular point yet. Then if you look at that same point also, March 2020, ganun din. The S&P 500, which is a reflection of the US markets, was massively down as well. Difference lang for those who are not tracking both Philippine and US markets, the Philippine markets prior to the large drop of March 2020, bumabagsak na siya. Yung US markets though, prior to the drop of March 2020, they were hitting all-time highs. So sa kanila, it was pretty much abrupt also, pero it came from a very, 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 very strong rampaging market. Then you also have the crypto market. Since walang index sa crypto, everyone references Bitcoin as the index. True enough, because it really is. And ganun din, March 2020, bagsak din siya. It went to around 5,000 plus US dollars. So you had the Philippine markets drop massively. You had the US markets drop massively. Then you also had Bitcoin also drop at a certain degree. So that being said, I don't know if you know this, that there was a point at that time that yung stock market sarado siya, and I've been investing for a decade. Never ko na experience na nagsara yung stock market for any calamity that happened. But the market was closed for 2 days. And at that time also, hindi lang yun. Clearing houses were also closed, meaning yung mga bond investments ko, hindi, kung may return man yun, hindi ko alam paano mangyayari kung sarado lahat ng mga clearing houses. So at that point in time, please remember, nung March 2020, hindi naman natin alam na ganito yung mangyayari, that we could live with the virus, that okay, life can still go on, but at that time there was a lot of uncertainty. So first thing that I did was this. at that moment, I looked at my cash. Because for me, and this may be controversial to a lot of people into crypto and a lot of people who are heavy into investing, I like stockpiling cash, and I know fiat loses value, which true enough, it loses value because the US government keeps on printing. Pero for me, it's a buffer eh. Willing ako patulugin yung pera. I'm okay to have an amount of money na tulog that's not doing anything. And totoo, it's losing to inflation, it's not earning. Pero yung what's wrong lang naman, yung masama lang naman sa cash is if yung cash na yun, nandun lahat. If you're not invested in other things, talo siya, sayang siya. But I had to make sure that I had this cash buffer that if something happens to my bonds, something happens to stocks, I get zero, I have this. I'm not talking about, guys, I'm not, just to clarify, I'm not talking about emergency fund. I'm not talking about yung business fund ninyo or yung fund from travel. This is purely a cash buffer that if everything goes to zero, I can sleep sound at night. I can sleep sound at night. And this also gives you the context that if I have this, when things get better or when I have a semblance that things are stabilizing, I can go in the offensive. And that's what I was going on, and that's what I was looking at when I was trying to go for all of this. So I look at that. Then I started to look at yung bonds ko, preferred shares, tsaka high yielding savings. Kasi sabi ko, this is my cash flow. This is passive sources. And this may sound boring to a lot of people kasi no one likes to talk about bonds. No one wants to talk about preferred shares kasi hindi naman talaga siya gumagalaw eh. But it's passive eh. It's passive, meaning kahit wala ka nang gawin, kahit down yung market, kahit bagsak yung market ng April 2020, alam ko yung preferred shares ko, alam ko yung bonds ko, may matatanggap ako doon. That's predictability. That's still passive income for life. It's not the high flying movements that you will see Dogecoin hit 0.7. It's not as fun as that. Pero there's predictability, meaning alam ko yung pwede kong makuha ng July. And when those clearing houses open, okay na. I realized already at that point in time, okay, my cash buffer was still there. The passive sources were still there, kahit boring sila. But please remember this, for those of you who have been watching my YouTube channel, I would always say this, that it's the boring things in life that will make you rich eh. It's the boring things, it's the rudimentary things, it's the things that hindi ka masyado excited, pero if you do it faithfully, you do it over a decade, it works eh. Time works. I'll say this over and over. I'm 37 years old. I started my early 20s. Time works. And I've been doing this palang 14 years, 15 years. That's why I'm excited when I hit Randall's age pushing 60. Joke lang, Randall. When I hit 60, that imagine the time that I've spent in the market. That's why hindi nyo kailangan madaliin eh when you start investing eh. You don't have to rush it because when time is your greatest asset, suddenly you don't have to be scared. And when I saw that, okay, my buffer is okay, sources of income are okay, this is what I realized. And this is what I've been, even kung napanood yung YouTube ko, I'd always say this, maximum uncertainty, maximum upside. It's never I'm not there to find where the lowest point is. I'm not there to find that this is the exact reversal on the candlestick that, okay, from the 15-minute chart, this is where it starts to bounce. That's amazing. But what I've realized in any asset class out there, real estate, stocks, crypto, wherever you're looking at, when everything is at its bleakest, when everything is fearful, that's when your margins, that's when your upside becomes big. And when that happened, somewhere around the end of April, we had already 1 month to digest the data. So when we had 1 month to digest the data, sabi ko parang, okay to, I think I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay still. There will be some facets or even businesses that wala talaga siya. Pero as long as I covered my downside, I'm okay. And this is what I want to submit to all of you. If you listened to Diwa Gunigundo's talk yesterday, he laid out everything that's happening in the economy. But I want to share this. Please remember this. Please write this down. Do not wait for the economy to get better. Just make yourself better. Because in the midst of a bad economy, you can still earn it. In the midst of a bad economy, there are certain things that you can't control. But you can control how you manage your risk. You can't control how you deploy capital. You can't control how you diversify. You can't control where you put your attention on. You can't control what you study. You can't control also how much you work. So if people are saying walang pag-asa, that's not true, because your ability to earn is irrelevant on what you see around you. Totoo may effect siya, but hindi mo na control yun eh. Pero control mo gaano ka kalakas magtrabaho, gaano ka kasipag, gaano ka kalakas mag-research, how much time you put, how much time you save, how you manage your risk, how you diversify. That's something I can control. And for my talk also, I'm just gonna focus particularly for my investing portfolio. I know it's so fun to talk about trading, but I realize this is Icon 2021. This is not Stock Smarts. This is not my YouTube channel. So and I know there's a lot of people here who are watching that are business people and are very, very high in their corporate careers, that investing for you makes sense. And that's what I want to share. So if there's some things here that you hear that make be contradictory to the way I would analyze sa trading, because everything that I'm mentioning here is for investing. But also just for the benefit of people who want to look at the grand scheme of things, at least for the markets, this is where the PSEI is, at least from yesterday. As you can see it also, for at least from a technical standpoint, MACD is showing us already a change in direction. Then you have the 20, the 15, 200-day moving average. We saw a breakout of that, of 3 consecutive candles. Then we also see this. You see this downward trending slope here. We broke past that already. What happened the past few days allowed us to break past that downward trending slope last December 2020. So that being said, I think it just needs to clear at least this 100-day moving average right here, which is covered by the color green area. And you can draw your own resistance right here also. A breakout from this area, which this is around the 6745, 6652 level. A breakout from that, in my opinion, could bring us closer to around 7,000. But that being said, if we don't break out that, the probable scenario is this could be our short-term resistance, then our short-term support would be around here, around the 6560 mark. That's where the PSEI is. So it's very, very interesting, and it's nice to note that when you see something like that, that's why it's so appealing to be diversified, because this is where most of my attention and the talk will also be in. I want to talk about Philippine stocks, US stocks, crypto markets. That's why yung difference go about all of the other speakers. I'm not extreme in one side. I'm in the middle. I'm more of I just like to put money in things that make sense to me. So if you would ask me today also if I'm invested in bonds, I haven't bought a bond in a year. Yung nabili ko lang bond, premium bond last year because I wanted to try it. So all of the bonds that I have right now are bonds that I've held for the past decade. So mga 7-year bonds, 5-year bonds, especially before na matataas siya. Pero I haven't bought a bond in a year already. Because of interest rates being so low, I wanted it to be here. Anyways, so the context of this will be Philippine stocks, US stocks, and also the cryptocurrency markets. That being said, as we enter 2021, I want to show this also because this will set the tone of how I deployed capital, or at least how my approach for these types of investments. So what do I mean by that? Up until now, May 2021, we still have a lot of cases here. True enough, as you can see, yung spike here, we are not in that level anymore that March, April, where it was higher. It's sort of leveling off already, but we're still at the point that it's high. That's where we are, number one. Number two is this. This is the GDP of the Philippines. Randall said it, Diwa said it, we're still in a recession. And the reason why I say that is this. There's so much talk about us being in a recession, but what's not talked about is recessions are cyclical. And what's not talked about also is that recoveries are also cyclical. It's not a question whether a recession will happen, but it's also not a question whether a recovery will happen. And what people need to realize is this: after each recession is a recovery, massive recoveries. And if it's not a matter of my opinion, it's a matter of history, it's a matter of math, it's a matter of it really happens. But what's a greater question that people need to realize is this: kung alam naman natin that after a recession there will be a recovery, a greater question that people need to realize is this: what are you doing in the midst of a recession? Because if you know a recovery will happen, this should be a time for you not to be shy. This is a time for you that kung madami kang time ngayon na dahil nasa bahay ka, tapos hindi mo alam saan ka mag-invest, now is the best time to spend a lot of time to keep on researching. So that when we start to recover, you already have covered your bases and then you come out of the gates running. And I'm going to share this, that it doesn't matter to me if the Philippine economy recovers 2022, 2023. What I do know is we will recover. And what I do know is hindi ko control yun, pero control ko kung anong gagawin ko ngayon based on what will happen. And third context is the vaccines. The vaccines are so relevant because that brings us a sense of normalcy. I know Diwa mentioned this, kung gaano katagal tayo magkakaroon ng herd immunity, but the faster this gets rolled out, I think the better. So those are the three contexts, and I just want to papasadahan ko lang to. These are my investing rules, at least for my investing portfolio. I always put money in. That's my goal. Once I put that money in that investment portfolio, it never goes out. It never goes out. Pinag-usapan na namin yan ng asawa ko, girlfriend ko pa lang siya. Pag nasa investment portfolio yan, it will stay there in perpetuity. It's just there. That's why I have to make sure that kung linagay ko sa investing account yan, it has to be sobra. Meaning, hindi ko siya, there will be no instance, there will be no chance that I will use it for something. Because if I will use it for something, di dapat nasa budget ko yan. Kung pambibili ko ng kape yan or pang-travel yan, it should never be in my investments. That's why I'm a big fan of cash, because cash is fiat, and fiat is not, was pagka-crypto bias ko, fiat is depreciating in value, but yung cash na yun, mapapambili ko yun. Pero, I just keep putting money in eh. That's my narrative. Even in the midst of the recession, in the midst of the largest lockdowns, in the midst of the uncertainty, when things got better last October, November, December, I was putting money in. Tapos, eto pa, every time I have additional, I just keep on putting it in also. So, please do note this, that Bo Sanchez said this yesterday. It's not that easy to do, but if you try to think about it, it's that simple eh. If you keep on adding, assuming that your investment does not grow, nothing happens to it. Pero kung lagay ka ng lagay, your portfolio will get bigger eh. And kung lagay ka ng lagay at hindi mo tinatanggal, by the time you hit 60 or 70, malaki yun. So imagine if you started in your 20s doing that for 50 years, that will be so big. I hope you grasp this, because if you get this, it doesn't matter what the asset class is, but it's more important how big the volume is. It has to come to a point that as Filipinos, there has to be a greater emphasis on volume, on what you put in, than where you're putting it in. I think that's more important. Number 3 is this. When those investments earn, I just reinvest. I just keep reinvesting it. So for stocks, minsan, from stocks that are giving me growth, linilipat ko lang preferred shares, linilipat ko lang shares that would give me dividends, pero it stays there. I don't like to take out capital appreciation and use it to buy stuff. Dividends probably, interest from bonds probably, but not capital appreciation, because the moment you sell something for cash and then you use that cash, you remove the potential. So sayang. Think about it. Never swap yung pinaghirapan nyo, blood, sweat, and tears ninyo, tapos tatanggalin nyo lang ulit, pinaghirapan nyo ilagay doon, you lose out the potential on that. So that's number 3. Number 4, and please do remember this, and that's why I'm a big fan of the crypto market right now, because it's something that I've been spending so much time to understand. I've been during this lockdown, in a day, 2 hours, 3 hours, trying to learn as much of it as possible. Because I'll say this, no matter how shiny that investment is, it doesn't matter if it's Tesla, if it's ASEN, if it's Dito, if it's Dogecoin, if it's Ethereum, if it's Cardano, if you don't understand it and you don't have the conviction for it, then don't go for it. No matter how many people would talk about a particular investment here, but it doesn't sit well with you, then don't do it. Only enter something that you are fully convinced with. If you watch my videos in YouTube last week, I mentioned that I wrote an article in Rappler, a column in Rappler 2014, talking about Bitcoin. And nag-start lang ako 2018. I call it pa noong 2018, nabudol pa ako noon. I was in Dubai. Nabudol ako noon, kinorner ako ni John Joseph Mendoza sa coffee shop. Tapos, yun, that's when it started, but it was 5 years. And at that time, my whole context of it was, I just wanted allocation. I just wanted some allocation sa crypto market, but hindi ko pa, it's not the same level of conviction that I have right now. So that's what I'm saying. So as we started to progress last year, I was pretty much more on even the US markets mid last year, primarily because there were a lot of tech stocks, but I'm getting ahead of my slide also. I hope you're learning, guys. Comment below if you're learning and if this is something that's helping you. So where am I investing? And the whole context of what I said earlier was Philippine markets, US markets, and the cryptocurrency markets. I want to start everything off first with what am I doing in the Philippine markets and yung context ko on my approach for it. So because of what I said earlier, vaccine, economy, and also yung lockdowns, everything that I'm putting right now sa Philippine markets is under this context. I'm willing to wait. Meaning, kumbaga sa farming, you can check out Dodong Kakanando later, he's a farmer. He would always say this yung technique sa farm is, pag tinanim mo, hintayin mo. The biggest trees, the best fruits, are not the ones that pag tinanim mo kahapon, kikita ka na kagad ngayon. And that's what I'm looking at for the Philippine markets. It's true no that last year versus US markets, it lagged, but I've already managed my expectations that okay lang sa akin kahit mag-lag siya kasi yung linagay ko naman doon hindi naman para kikitain ko ng December 2020 It's for something else Because I'll say this and I'll repeat this again that the road to recovery right now and growth is still long. So my strategy, at least for Philippine stocks, and this may sound I don't know, for those who are watching this and are pretty much into crypto, it may not make sense to you that, bakit siya naglalagay sa Philippine markets? Pwede naman sa crypto. It makes sense to me. It really makes sense to me that different asset classes move in cycles. That there will come a point in time where what used to be a laggard, it's what will start moving. And once it starts moving, whatever I placed in na hinintay ko that was not really exciting at that point, it's the one that becomes exciting. And I'm willing to wait. I've come to a point also similar to what Mike Manuel said yesterday that it's also in the sitting. It's also in how you allocate it. That as it shifts, what you allocate in this class allows you to benefit for that later on. And what's hot right now is what's gonna make you do better also in the present. Anyways, I'm digressing. So yung strategy ko, at least for the Philippine markets, is this. My goal is just to position. My goal is just to accumulate and wait for things to get better. Not wait na umaasa lang ako. I'm just hoping that sana maging okay na, sana bumalik to. If you look at what's happening in any recession, and I've mentioned this earlier, when recoveries happen, the market, which is a leading indicator, the economy is a lagging indicator, the market always comes out first. And it's not me hoping, just hoping na magiging okay siya. I know based on history that it will be okay. And please do note this, we talked about this with Randall yesterday, that yung mga stocks sa Philippines, especially the ones that have good fundamentals. So please do note this, you always separate the good ones from the bad ones. I'm talking about the good ones. The ones with amazing fundamentals, hindi naman bumagsak yung stock nila dahil pangit yung pamamalakad nila. Hindi naman bumagsak yung stock nila dahil mali yung pamamalakad ng CEO nila, that they mismanage the money. That's not the case. That's not the issue. Hindi naman nasira yung bumagsak yung stock nila because there was a competitor that suddenly destroyed the entire market. That wasn't the issue. It was just that there was a black swan event. There was a pandemic that destroyed everything. But here's what we do know. And this is what I think the biggest arbitrage of the stock market is. When you are investing in the stock market, you are not investing in the economy. You are investing in companies. And when you are investing in companies, there's one thing that I do know also. Good companies get massively better when times are bad. That's what separates the good ones from the bad ones. When times are bad, the good companies innovate, pivot, and shift. And that's what you want to bet on. Because when the pandemic is over, because they have all of these systems in place, they have all of these adjustments in place, then suddenly they come out of the gates running. But that being said, to balance out this stock, I want to mention this. The companies inside the PSE are mostly traditional. And they have been hit mainly by the pandemic. What do I mean? Look at it. Malls. Kung wala masyadong tao sa mall, then the mall really doesn't earn as much. The tenants in the malls does not earn as much. Up until now, May 2021, wala pa nanonood ng sine. So isipin nyo na lang, just think about the multiplier effect ng sine. Si Randall, madaming kwento dyan na sa kanya, pag nanonood dyan ng sine, times 6. Tapos hindi lang ticket yung binabayaran, popcorn pa, tsaka drinks pa. Tapos after manood ng sine, kakain kayo sa restaurant. So think about that multiplier effect on how it affected the mall industry. That
Marvin, times 8 na, meron na ako mga son-in-law. So,
times 8
na. Kaya okay ngayon na wala ng sine.
Times 8 na daw. So, I hope you're getting what I'm saying. And if you look at the context also, madaming listed companies na malls. In the same way, connected sa malls property development, it's getting better. And I know that David Lichu later will have an amazing insight on what's happening in the property market. But it's because it's mainly traditional. They're the ones that got hit. And knowing that, I think it may take some time before it gets better. That being said, I want to share this. These are the things that I'm at least looking at for my style for the Philippine markets. And there will be some stocks that will be mentioned here also. But please do note this, and even for cryptos later, no matter how much I talk about it, pag-aralan nyo, don't just buy it just because it's talked about here. And second is, please take the time to look at the logic behind it. Because if you look at the logic behind it, that's something that's templatable. Meaning, yung natutunan nyo ng May 2021, magagamit nyo ng April 2024. Because if you just rely on the stocks that are written, yun nagbabago eh. Pero the skill, the logic, the way it's taught, and yun something na madadala nyo even after this conference. So because of that, my style, and if you've been watching the videos, I've been spending a lot of time for dividend stocks. However, I try to make sure that at least my dividend yield for dividend stocks is at 5%. And I mentioned this because when a company is giving out dividends, what's interesting about that is it means that may sobra siya. It means that it has more than enough. It means that, okay, lahat tayo natama ng pandemic, pero sila, they have excess. They have surplus. Because please do note this, that when you start to analyze everything, when times are bad, a lot of those companies that think that their income will be hit, una nilang sa slash yung dividends nila. So if una nilang sa slash yung dividends nila, the ones that last year were resilient and the ones that are resilient even today, in my opinion, are good. And that's what's nice about the stock market. Pag hindi ka na satisfied sa dividends, pwede ka naman lumipat dun sa stock na tingin mo mas gusto mo. Or kung hindi ka na satisfied sa dividends, baka there might be something else that's better also. So yun. So some rules lang, and I'm just gonna share some slides to all of you for my rules for this, is that I want the ones that give me predictable cash flow. So here's an example. Meralco, I think, is very predictable because it's not like Cebu Pacific, it's not like Petron, it's not like other companies na natamaan mismo sa pandemic. Dito, totoo, natamaan din sila because there are some establishments that hindi full capacity, madaming sarado pa na buildings, pero alam mo, it won't go to zero. And that's what I like about it. I like something that I know at X number of months from now, hindi siya mawawala ng customers. Hindi siya mawawala ng customers. May benta siya. Kung may benta siya, alam ko hindi siya magsasara. And it eliminates a large risk when you start to invest. Yon. So, number 2 rule is that I want companies that are resilient even in the midst of the pandemic. And one example of that is PLDT. I'm showing you the list of the dividends. So, this is from First Metrosec Pro. What I want to show you is this. So, these are the dividends of PLDT. But if you look at their earnings, you will see it that in the midst of the pandemic, 2020, their net income even increased Look at it. 2018, 18.9 billion net income. 2019, 22.52 billion. 2020, 24 billion. I like that because, okay, madaming tao na, madaming businesses na tamaan, pero sila, nagtaas pa ng dividend, hindi lang nagtaas ng dividend, tumaas pa yung net income nila. So, from someone who, kahit may uncertainty sa Pilipinas, I know that, teka, I think I'm okay with this. So, yon. Number 3 is this. I like stocks that has the potential to grow in the future. And that being said, this is one of my favorites from last year also. It's a REIT. And Rex Mendoza loves this also. But it's our hybrid for real estate and stocks. David Lichu also loves this. But what's interesting about that is when they listed last year, they just kept acquiring. So when you keep acquiring, yung pwede mong kitain from rent, lalong lumalaki. And it's evident right here, you've seen their dividends increase from 0.28 August 2020 to what they declared just a few days ago to 0.42. So the more they keep acquiring, the more their rental income goes higher, the higher the dividends that you will get. But not just that, we're in a time where Philippine stocks have been lagging, A-REIT has been pushing up. Imagine this, kahit hindi nyo siya na-timingan sa IPO, at any point between August to November, December, you could have accumulated it and you would have been up around 40+%. Even if you came in later, you would have still been up. Plus, tumataas pa yung dividend yield nyo. And that's what I like about REITs. For those who know my story, I've been investing in REITs since 2014. It's predictable. And hindi lang siya dahil sa predictable, may capital appreciation siya. So yun. Again, please don't buy it just because it's talked about here. Please study this also. Number 4, I don't mind even if the capital appreciation is slow. So some of that, parang Meralco, it really, from where it is right now, it really hasn't pushed up. Pero my mentality for me buying dividend stocks is, as long as nakukuha ko yung cash flow, as long as alam ko na yung bibigay nila sa akin 6 months from now is predictable, okay na sa akin. Kung meron siyang capital appreciation, bonus na lang yun. So this is the difference between trading and using dividends, is that dividends for me is I get the cash flow, then bonus na lang yung appreciation. That's it. Number 5 is this. Very important to me is the consistency in giving out the dividends. Very, very important. Kasi there are some companies that mataas yung, like for example, GMA7. Pero historically, GMA7, mataas naman talaga sila magbigay ng dividends. Their dividends are amazing. However, their dividends, at least their declaration from last year's earnings spiked because wala na silang kalaban. When ABS-CBN closed down, there's an expectation that yung customers ng ABS-CBN would go to GMA7. But it's not something that I could see that, okay, every year sila tumataas. I want consistency that year in, year out, there's an expectation that it could be at the same level as last year or even higher. One example of that is Globe. So as you can see right here, I'll just drink water. As you can see right here, very, very consistent. Every quarter sila nagbibigay. And even if you zoom out right here, even 2016 all the way to where we are right now, very, very consistent on a quarterly basis, giving out dividends. So that's one part of my investing portfolio, at least for the Philippines. Then, secondly, because I mentioned that there's a lot of uncertainty. I mentioned that it may take some time before we recover. My style for Philippine stocks right now, at least from an investing standpoint and not a trading standpoint, is to focus on the ones that are market leaders in their particular categories. The ones that are very, very good, very, very big, very, very resilient. And some of them, again, please study them. Don't just buy it because it's mentioned here. I like the banks, BDO, Metro Bank, Property, Ayala Land, SM Prime. Ingat lang for property stocks because, of course, they've gone up the past few days. But it may take some time before they fully go back from a fundamental standpoint to where they were in 2019 levels. But I like them. I like companies that are run very, very well. And I like companies that know what they're doing also in terms of their expansion. That's why I have it there. Then I like your goal also, market leader in their space. Essential goods, Century Pacific, then conglomerates, Ayala Corporation and SM. Then so dividends, then the big ones, at least market leaders, then at least something that I know is banking on the future. These are the things that I think I like because of where the pandemic is headed. And that's where, in my opinion, ASEN is, ALLHC is, and Converge is. Converge primarily because I really believe the internet is everything. ASEN because I've been a big fan of renewable energy, and the projects that they've been doing, the wind projects that they've been doing is very very interesting. And please do note this. I'm saying this May 2021. We are not going backwards into this. Renewable energy will just get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper because the ability to produce it right now is cheaper. And the world's governments are pushing towards renewable energy. And if you want to bank into the future, bank into something that will make Earth more sustainable. And it's interesting to see that we have companies like that in the Philippines that are positioning in that way. So at 6, at 7, it may wala na yung just to manage everything also. Wala na yung excitement from last year that it was flying, but I'm not looking at it kung ano yung magiging presyo niya 2 months from now eh. I'm looking at it when this hits scale. When a large chunk of the revenue will be from renewable, then when they get more projects from purely renewable. So there. I have a few minutes left. Number 2. So the first one was willing to wait. Number 2 is growth for today. My strategy for this is I just want to position into markets that are into disruption and innovation. Quoting one of the people that I follow, Katie Wood, you want to be in the right side of change. And that's why I also mentioned renewable energy, because I want to be in the right side of change. I want to be invested into something that 40 years after this, when I look back, because you invest, it's not just that kumita ka sa investment mo, it's you investing into something that is changing the way people's lives are lived. And what's interesting about that is sa Philippine markets, we don't have a lot of that. That's why I have to go outside the Philippines, because if you look at it, there's not really a lot of technology stocks in the Philippines. And I know Rex Mendoza mentioned this yesterday, but these are the things also that I'm looking at, similar to what Rex mentioned. I'm a big fan of fintech, PayPal, Square. I'm a big fan of companies that are highly connected to AI. So yung trick sa AI, no, you don't know, there's a lot of companies that uses AI, even Apple, even Facebook, even Netflix. As subtle as Netflix, no, I don't know if you've noticed it. Pag nanood kayo ng Friends, ay wala pa lang Friends sa Netflix na reunion. Pag nanood kayo ng favorite ni Randall, Vincenzo. So pag nanood si Randall pag nanood si Randall ng Vincenzo, the next time na babalik siya, mare-recommend sa kanya puro Korean novela na. That's part of the AI algorithm, or it managing big data to tweak based on your viewing habits. So that's AI. And if you notice it, AI, in my opinion, similar to renewable energy, it will just move forward. It will just get better. What do I mean by that? Isipin nyo, Siri also uses AI. What do I mean? What do I mean by that? Kung nag-Siri ka noong 2010, nag-Siri ka noong 2011 versus nag-Siri ka now, puro mali-mali si Siri a decade ago. Kung mag-Siri ka ngayon, it's better. Kung magbigay ka ng command sa TV mo or mag-Alexa ka, whatever, it's better. Why? Because AI needs a lot of data to process things. And the longer AI has exposure to data, the faster its processing time will be and the faster it can adapt. And that being said, we are just moving forward and forward and forward in this. And highly suggest this. Watch Elon Musk's video on AI. It becomes scary on how AI will be in the future, but we're not there yet. But AI will change a lot of things. And ganun din, it's already happening sa ano ngayon eh. I think that's what will hit our BPO industry as well. There's a lot of bots already that are using AI. Nakala mo ka-chat mo totoong tao, pero hindi na pala totoong tao yun. It's just an AI function already. And that being said also, I'm getting ahead of myself for some of the slides, but AI will remove a lot of the manual work that used to take a lot of people to do. Then renewable energy, I mentioned that for ASEN, but there are a lot of companies also outside the Philippines that are dabbling into this, not just wind but also solar. So yun, then number 4, blockchain. I'll talk more about that later, but I'll just say this at the start. Blockchain is amazing. It's if you just understand how deep the technology is and how much it will disrupt things. Imagine an election that all of the votes are transparent. Imagine an election where walang centralized source na nagka-count ng boto, pero kita natin lahat ng nangyayari. How much that will change the way lives are lived. Then electric vehicles. What similar to renewable energy, the thrust for electric vehicles will just keep on pushing. And I really believe that electric vehicles will just continue to go higher in the next few years. Why? Because Tesla's scaling. When Tesla starts to scale, lahat ng mga kalaban nila na hindi nag-electric vehicle will now also make a mad push for it. Because before, the problem of Tesla was they cannot produce a lot of cars. They cannot. Yun yung naging problem nila. They can only manufacture a couple of cars a year. But if you follow what's been going on, Gigafactory Berlin, Gigafactory Austin, Gigafactory in China, and when they make that templatable, meaning they can make more of that, and then it will be cheaper, suddenly you will see more subsidies in it. Suddenly you will see a lot of governments pour money into it even more. Suddenly lahat ng competitors nila, even Ford, the bigger companies that were not really taking a lot of attention in it, in the next few years they will spend a lot of money in it. And I think that's a very, very interesting space for it. So some examples of tech stocks now. I've been a very, very big fan of Facebook. Facebook has been one of my longest holdings. 2013 pa lang, I've been a big fan of it. In the midst of all of the Mark Zuckerberg court hearings, in the midst of yung mga privacy issues nila, for me, it was just very, very simple eh. Pag gising natin sa umaga, a large chunk of the population, bago mag-brush ng teeth, bago mag-breakfast, they will always check their Facebook. And whoever has the largest attention will win. That's why there's such a buzz right now for TikTok, because TikTok is getting a large amount of attention that used to be in Facebook. And whoever gets the attention will win. And some of the companies here, Apple and Microsoft, are my longtime favorites also. Technology. And true enough, no, even if you look at the charts, the long term, you spread everything out, the long term charts will validate how interesting tech stocks are, especially the big ones, especially the ones that are not losing money, but they have a very, very large valuation, but also they're making money as well. This is Apple, and I saw it in the comment section. Someone mentioned Tesla and NIO. Yep. What I like about Tesla is that I'm not just looking at Tesla right now, no, as a electric car. Tesla has amazing battery technology. Tesla, you can ride a Tesla and go for large distances na hindi nagagawa ng ibang kotse dati. Tesla has AI. And I'm saying this because you will see a self-driving car, not in the next 10 years, but over the next 2 years, you will, not in the Philippines, but most likely in the States, you will step into a car that wala ng tao nagdadrive, purely using sensors, purely using AI. That's what's interesting about it. And that's why also Tesla dropped somewhere around here, close to the 200-day moving average. As an investment, it was very, very appealing for me. I repeat, there's a chance that Tesla could also still go down in price. Pero what matters for me from an investor's point of view, not a trader's point of view, is that where it will also be later on. When AI scales, when they start building more cars, and then when they continually get a large piece of the market. Because if you look at it right now, they have a very, very small piece of the market pa lang eh. But what if later on, they continue to grab a larger piece, and a lot of people will be shifting from gasoline-driven cars to electric cars? Then this, I've been spending a lot of time also, even nung drop last year, just buying big brands. Starbucks, Nike, Disney, McDonald's, Chipotle, because I know this. I had the chance to talk to the CEO of another brokerage exchange abroad, and yun lang yung style niya. Inisip niya that the younger generation right now are watching Disney Plus, and the younger generation also right now that know the characters in Marvel kilala pa rin nila yung mga si Donald Duck, kilala pa rin nila si Mickey Mouse. And that's where brand is. And the biggest arbitrage, in my opinion, in US markets is that you have the largest brands in the world. The largest brands in the world, Starbucks, Nike. And I submit this to all of you. Please invest in Philippine stocks because panahon naman din para Pilipino makinabang sa sarili niyang bansa. Pero Starbucks, McDonald's, Nike, Disney, they've been making money in the Philippines for so long. Panahon naman para Pilipino kumita sa pinagbebenta sa atin na ibang bansa. So why not just invest in Philippine stocks but also diversify and buy the large brands? Because there's one thing I know. The prices of these stocks could go down and it will go down and they will correct. But in business, brand is everything. And the ones that have the largest brands, as long as syempre the fundamentals still stay the same, will always win. And that's why Coke always wins. That's why Warren Buffett loves Coke. So yun. So that's at least a broad view of what I'm looking at from a global perspective. Technology and all of the things that I've mentioned, then large brands. I need to bring this to a close, and I also want to talk about the last part of my talk. So first part is willing to wait. Second part is growth for today. And number 3, what changed during this pandemic was prior to this pandemic, I would fly 60 to 70 times a year. And there wasn't really enough time also to rest. There wasn't enough time to do StarCraft, which I had a lot of time to do last year, which was my biggest regret. But it gave me a lot of time also, not just to study technology, but also to study, in my opinion, where the future is. I've been heavily spending a lot of time, not just investing in cryptos, but studying it. And my strategy for this is to position and build volume on what I believe is one of the greatest technological shifts in our generation. And what's so interesting about that is we are at a moment where a lot of people don't understand it yet. I think we are at the moment where if you were in the 1700s, you were at the 1800s, this was the time na nagkakaroon ng industrial revolution. That a lot of people did not understand ano yung mga machines na yan, ano yan, papalitan nila kami. They really didn't understand it. A lot of people were opposing it because it was uncertain. It was uncertain. That's why I keep imploring you, keep on studying it, keep on learning it, because as you go deeper in it, you will realize that the inherent technology of this will change so many things. And I really believe it's the greatest technological shift. So let me give you an example. I know Tony talked about it. I know Nichelle talked about it, but I'm sharing this also from my own context. I'll just talk about a couple of things. And I'm not going to talk about the underlying technology blockchain. I'll just go straight to Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the easiest for people, I think, to understand. And it's the largest. And in my opinion, still from the crypto market space, it's the safest. And I know Nichelle talked about this, that Bitcoin is digital gold, but I'll push it even further. I really believe that Bitcoin is 1,000 times better than gold. All of the things that gold can do, Bitcoin can do better. And gold has been in its place as a store of value for years. For years, it's been there. However, these are the things that Bitcoin can do that gold cannot do. Think about it. Kung meron kang, si Randall, sure ako madaming gold bars si Randall Pero if Randall had, sabihin natin, 50 gold bars, the problem there is, how will he store it? Number 2 is security. Number 3, kung gusto niyang ibenta yung gold bars na yun bukas, sobrang hirap. Or pag maglilipat siya ng bahay, anong gagawin niya? Yung safe niya, malalaman ng mga tao also na naglilipat siya ng gold bars. What I want to tell you is this, all of that, Bitcoin does even better. Bitcoin you can sell anytime. Bitcoin, hindi mo na kailangan ng security guard para bantayan yung Bitcoin mo. Bitcoin also, you can easily store it, especially if you have a cold wallet na nakatago na nakastash lang. It's easy for you to be able to protect your wealth. And here's the thing though, what Bitcoin has that gold does not have is this. Gold has been around, has been being mined for thousands of years already, but we still have not run out of gold yet. But Bitcoin, we have around 18 million Bitcoins mined already, but there will only be 21 million Bitcoins forever. think about the scarcity of that. And I'm not sure if you've noticed this. People who hold Bitcoin, hodlers, they barely sell. Of course, there will be people who will trade, but the ones who really understand Bitcoin, they're not selling. I'm not selling. From the data that I have now, May 2021, I'm not selling any of my Bitcoin. I'm not selling it. I will hodl it because I see it. The scarcity interlaced in it is so different. And please remember this, the narrative has changed that you don't look at Bitcoin as cash na yun yung pambabayad mo ng Starbucks. You look at Bitcoin as a store of value. You look at Bitcoin and people and the logic of anong nagagawa ng Bitcoin, anong value niya, bakit siya mataas ng price. It's the same way as you look at a Rolex watch. It's the same way as you look at a painting, that when you buy a painting, you have gold, you have a Rolex watch, it doesn't give you dividends. The only value it has is that there's a group of people that sees value in it also. And that's what Bitcoin is. The difference though is the staying power of Bitcoin. It's been over a decade already, has been so into so many crashes already that if it was really not an investment, after each crash that happened, dapat nawala na siya. Pero after each crash, you can validate this off the internet. The wallets that are transacting off of Bitcoin just keep on getting bigger. You have scale. And what's interesting about that is this. 1 trillion market cap. How can that be something that's a fad already? That market cap of at its highest of Bitcoin surpassed a lot of the other listed companies in the US. But wait, here's what's interesting, guys. That's not what's even more exciting. In my opinion, what's exciting are this tokens like Ethereum, like what BNB has, where you could build smart contracts off of it. That I think is the future. Anything that, think about money na pwede mong i-program. Think about money na pwede ka pumasok ng kontrata na it cuts out the middleman already, na didiretso ka na doon. Bibili ka ng real estate, maglo-loan ka, magsa-start ka ng business that everything is already programmed into the money. That's amazing. And there's so many things that could be done. And what's so interesting about Ethereum is that you can build so many things on top of it. You could build NFTs. And I know Nichelle talked a lot about NFTs, and I'm not gonna talk about it here, but majority of lahat ng artists na nasa NFT space, they're in Ethereum. They're in Ethereum. And what that does is this, it will attract a lot of people that hindi mahilig sa cryptocurrencies pero mahilig sa collectibles, mahilig sa art, that will suddenly go into NFTs and buy digital art. Pero since wala silang choice, kailangan nila magbayad ng Ethereum, they will be forced to get Ethereum also. And that brings them closer to cryptocurrencies as well. In the same way, for me, I've been investing in NBA Top Shot, pero it's more of parang based on what's happening sa Top Shot, it became more of a hobby also than an investment. But it's riding off of the blockchain. So yun, Bitcoin, store of value, other cryptocurrencies, other tokens like Ethereum that rides the ERC network, BNB that rides the BSC network, which is a cheaper alternative for, which please remember, I think the biggest advantage of the BSC chain right now versus ERC is sobrang mura siya. And for those who are investing in cryptos know this, that there's a large shift to BSC because the transactions are cheaper. Super cheaper. And yun yung lamang, I think, ng mga tokens with utility versus Bitcoin. Because ito, mararamdaman mo you can do something off of it and talagang migong magamit. So please research, please study it. Don't just buy it because I'm talking about it here. Then I also have this as part of my portfolio. Pang hedge siya that Cardano also uses smart contracts. That just in case Ethereum doesn't deliver on its promise, you have Cardano, which does the same things that are even better than Ethereum. So if you notice what I've been doing also, my style in investing is I don't want to be correct. I just want to be profitable. Na kahit mali ako dito, meron ako pambalanse. So that's how I look at it. Some other examples that I think are worth studying. Matic, which is heavily connected to Ethereum, which will make Ethereum better. VeChain, which I think will disrupt the supply chain on how we see supply chains. Aave is so interesting, guys. Study it. Of course, everything now is down, but the biggest problem of Filipinos is that wala siyang access to credit eh. Madaming Pilipino na gusto magka-credit card, gusto mag-loan, hindi sila binibigyan. Suddenly, right now, you have decentralized finance apps that, okay, ngayon, dahil pwede kong collateralize yung mga tokens ko, pwede na ako kumuha ng loan. Dati hindi ako na-approve kasi wala akong masyadong credentials, pangit yung salary ko eh. Pero dahil meron akong token that I can collateralize, then suddenly I can get loans on top of it. Then PancakeSwap. PancakeSwap is so addicting. Please research it. You can provide liquidity. In turn, as you provide liquidity, you have a chance also to earn off of it. So these are just some examples, no? And if you noticed it, the way I'm saying it is, I never talked about ano yung magiging presyo niya later on. Because if you understand what it does, the price becomes irrelevant already. Because we are at a point where I think about the internet. If you had the chance to invest in TCP/IP, HTTPS, FTS, all of those protocols na alam mong gagamitin ng mga tao, you would invest in it. That's where I think these tokens are and these platforms are. When the apps that will be built on top of, regardless if it's Cardano, Ethereum, or BSC, regardless of what it is, when those apps get built and people start using them and they suddenly understand it, that's when the value will go up. And when the value goes up, those that took the risk when everyone did not see it, they will benefit from it. But in the middle of that, andun yung risk. So to end, Philippine stocks, I'm investing in it. By the way, no, habang umakyat yung cryptocurrency market, habang naglalagay ako to balance things out, lagay pa rin ako nalagay sa Philippine stocks. I'm not saying that ginibili ko siya agad, but I'm putting in cash there to take advantage of some opportunities. Number 2, US stocks, tech stocks for growth for today. And number 3, cryptocurrencies, because I really believe it's the future. And that's why my talk is all about conviction, because all of these require conviction. All of these, while they're dropping, correcting, require conviction. But if it's done right, done properly, not that you're not looking to get rich quick, but you want to do it properly, it could give you cash flow, not just for 2021, but something that's repeated over and over again. So to close, I just want to end with this quote. The reason why it's so nice to talk about investing is because it's nice to see a lot of people that have the right heart to make a lot more money, because when you have more money, you have excess, and then you can be a blessing to a lot of people. And I think that's the most important thing that people need to realize, that you invest not just because para yumaman ka, but you invest because you make a difference in this generation. That you get to make a difference sa pamilya mo, you get to make a difference sa kamag-anak mo, and kung may pangangailangan, hindi ikaw yung may kulang, hindi ikaw yung ikaw yung linalapitan, pero dahil may sobra ka, it's intentional already for you to give. And that's the crux of it. So thank you so much for having me. I hope you guys got a lot, and God bless you all. Trade well, trade strong, trade smart.